Hello, you're listening to the Neil Lampton Show. My name is Joey. This week I am joined by Dom,
Hi there.
by Imogen,
Hi, Joey.
and by Neil.
Hello.
There we
Good
go.
noise. Good noise.
Yeah. How is everyone first? And before we do moments of the week, how is everyone feeling? Dom, how are you? How are you settling into real life again?
Yeah, I think Sunday and Monday was pretty rough. Just like waking up and going, "Oh, that happened. We missed out on that." Would have been pretty nice to be in that Premier League. It would have been pretty nice to be all celebrating and happy. But I think today with the retained release list and actually signing the player, kind of feels starting to move on. Even though obviously Leeds, Leicester and Southampton is going to win all the promotion places next season, so there's no point. But whatever, we move on.
Will they?
They've got so many good players.
Leeds.
Dom, don't make me list all the times you've been wrong, because I will do it.
I wonder whether
Leeds
I wonder
got some
whether
good money behind them.
Southampton, I think, weirdly, despite how badly they've gone. I know this isn't the Premier League relegation podcast, but we are. This is where we are. Like, I wonder whether their young players that they brought in that weren't ready to play in the Premier League might be absolutely ready to completely tear up the Championship after a year of experience. They're really only getting the right manager in away from like having a real party. I think next season. I think it's Leeds are in trouble, and I wonder the extent of Leicester's financial woes, and I wonder how that team should have never have been anywhere near the relegation zone, so should it? So why all of a sudden are they just going to turn around after they lose Tielemans and Barnes and Maddison and whatever else?
But I think it's a thing that if they lose those 5 best players, they still have 20 others who are just far too good for the Championship.
Yeah.
And we've seen in previous years that can just be that, unless you absolutely are determined to screw it up, like Watford and Norwich were this year.
Imogen, how are you feeling?
No, I'm still pretty desolate, I'm afraid. The signing of what's his name, De Silva, has not boosted my mood. I thought maybe the next day would be bad, but I thought I'd be recovered by Monday, and yet it's Tuesday night, guys, and I am still real sad. So this is going to be a fun hour of listening.
Okay, Neil?
Yeah, I'm multiple moods at the moment. But one of them isn't like being desolate. I think I'm not there. Not because I'm not sad. I'm not really sad about what happened. I'm really gutted by it. But my favourite emotions in the world are joy and defiance. And had a load of joy on Saturday, and that's kind of merged into defiance now. So you'll get a lot of that today. A lot of that in this pod.
What's your, out of interest, what's your least favourite emotions?
Earnestness. If that's even an emotion.
Lovely. Okay. To round things off, I feel a little bit like Ted on Father Ted when the plane crashes, and I'm sort of have been so mentally prepared for the worst happening that I almost feel quite almost sort of serene. Jokes aside, is like I'm starting to process it. Today is the first day where it seems to be coming together. And I agree with you. The retained list has helped and signing a player has helped. And I think when we'll talk about it in a bit, I, for the first time, can now envisage a way that we can lose Hamer and Gyökeres and move forward and not be too badly affected by it. But I'll reveal my secret evil plan later on. Seeing as we've gone from never recording a podcast to now recording a podcast once every 2 days, it's probably just, let's call it the moments of Saturday rather than, the moments of the last 4 days since we've done one. Anything that anyone wants to pick out particularly? And I think let's do nice ones, shall we? What was the nicest thing that you came across from Saturday? Or Neil, if you want to choose the most defiant thing that happened on Saturday, you're happy also to do that.
I want to go, and I'll go first. And it's not because I've got anything particularly special. It's just I think Saturday is going to be so individual to each person in terms of how they experienced it and like all the bits and bobs that happened. And I've seen a whole range of kind of comments from people who are there, and some absolutely loved everything about. Some people never want to go back to Wembley again. You know, there's a whole mix of stuff, and so I'm really looking forward to hear what you guys got to say. But obviously, my moment is Hamer's moment, Hamer's goal, and it is that because I try for most of my life to not use hyperbole, and then that comes along.
In my entire life, I've never used hyperbole.
as I was saying it, I actually tried to word that differently, and it came out really bad. But no, I just all the other Wembley times, the two other, fucking hell, I'm useless at this, aren't I? It was the best football moment I've had, like ever, by absolute far. That goal going in, and I think everybody else will have different views on it, but just the sheer like joy and emotion and relentlessness of that joy when it was just going on, that the goal went in, and it was utter chaos and carnage where I was having people grabbing me from seats behind. I was standing on seats. It was just, and we've been at Wembley before, and we've scored Wembley goals before, and we've scored big goals before. This one, to me, maybe because we were behind and we'd gone a little bit further away than where we should have been, is what's caused it to mean so much to me. It was just the best football moment I've ever experienced. It was insanely good.
It's I'm going to seem like I'm hammering you here, but it was the defiance, wasn't it? All the other two trips to Wembley recently have been us, like, we had a nervy first half against Exeter, but then we just come out and blew them away in the second half, didn't we? It wasn't like, and it was nervy rather than you're a goal behind. Like, really, in the last two trips, everything has gone our way, but that goal to equalise in a game where they were, you might disagree with me, but for me, I just thought Luton were totally superior to us in the first half. Like the joy of clawing ourselves back into that game, like you say, was you can't compare that to any of the moments from the other games.
It's the like sorry to carry on, but it's like the authenticity of it. Like the other ones, not to say like I was putting it on the other goals in the other games, but there was something almost like written in the stars about those, where it just felt like those goals came, and I was obviously joyous, but like you're celebrating a goal like you celebrate a goal, and they were brilliant. But the one on Saturday, it was like raw, like innate within me. I couldn't control what I was doing. It was that big, and like you say, the defiance was obviously a big part of it. And I don't usually flick the V's at anybody, and I was flicking the V's at anybody who would look. So that was my defiance and my big moment.
I really hope that in your private moments you think of the V's as your boys. That's I don't know whether that was a slip of the tongue there. But you said I flipped on my boys.
I don't think I said that. Did I say that?
It sort of sounded a little bit like that.
I started off strong tonight, haven't I?
The other thing is, I think of you as being so reserved that your unbridled sort of passionate celebrations was just you standing up.
Just standing up and being Father Dick Byrne. Just like,
Get in.
No, it's different level.
Dom, Saturday, best moment?
Well, the best moment's been taken, to be honest.
Good moment?
I'll say it's everyone around me before the game waving their lovely little flags around, having a lovely time, and me steadfastly refusing to do so because I'm not plastic. So
mad bum, you're mad.
I just spent the whole game going, my future ownership of this flag is entirely dependent on us winning this. But I have to say, it did make Wembley look awful nice. All that sky blue everywhere, people being happy. It was nice. And
you turned that around there, Dom. I was going to crucify you.
Yeah, sing along to the PA,
On the subject of everything being sky blue, was anyone surprised by how half and half Wembley looked?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm colourblind, like red, orange, green colours. So it just looked like half the stadium was empty.
Oh.
I didn't know that about you, Dom.
For some reason, I thought we'd completely outsold them tickets-wise. And then when we got in, it was like, oh, we really haven't. This is just exactly dead on, half and half.
Yeah.
The lovely, right, Imogen, your thing about Saturday.
Well, I was gonna say that it was walking down Wembley Way, feeling like someone had just shot my dog, and realizing that actually you have to feel the depths of this sadness to, feel the highs. But we have to be positive. So I'm gonna instead say I had lunch with Max Biamu, and that was delicious.
Sorry, what? We've been talking for 10 minutes, and you should have just stopped everybody and told us that. How? Why?
Well, I've been sad. I've not been focused on that. My friend knows him, and he was here for the game with one of his a very tall man from Napoli. I presume it was his friend. And yeah, so I dropped by. I was too nervous to eat, and sadly too nervous to flirt. So unfortunately, he's not yet my husband. But he was an absolute delight, as you would expect he would be.
I can't tell whether you're saying a tall man from Napoli. Are you talking about Leo Ostigard?
No, sadly not. That would have been big news, guys. Big news. No, a youth who's apparently on loan somewhere in Serie C. I don't know where.
Okay.
I was too busy staring at Max's jawline, to be honest. But it was very
gorgeous
pleasant.
Is he gorgeous in real life?
So much more gorgeous than I thought he was going to be.
Yeah,
just a really strong jaw, and he does that little,
Oh wow!
A lot of that.
Imagine having that in your life.
A lot of that. I swooned.
Presumably in a beret with the
were onions and a striped top. He did actually wear his kit. He had the shirt, the dark blue shirt that we got in the post with all our names on the back. He had that from the season that he was at. Yeah, he wore that, or his friend wore that, and he wore another one anyway.
I wonder whether his name is on the back of that.
I don't know. I mean, I've got my
sort of big in white letters and
yeah, I mean, he did have that. Yeah. But so we were standing with him in the fan zone and watching all these. I mean, hundreds of people came up, some more than once. Have some shame, people, just to come up and have a photo with him, and they all adored him. It was so lovely. Everyone was happy and very just smiley around him. It's really nice.
He is an icon. Is it
absolutely
no?
He is, yeah. And then Reda Johnson turned up, and I was like, "This is some kind of weird dream I'm having." He was wearing gold trainers.
Did Reda Johnson turn up? But when everyone was like, "Oh, you're here for the game," he was like, "Actually, no, I'm here for the game tomorrow."
Quite literally, that is what he said. Yes.
Yeah.
He was like, he was here for the Sheffield Wednesday game, and he was like, "Oh, I'll come to this one as well."
I'm here anyway. I'm not going to go in, but I thought I'd take in the ambience.
Yeah.
Did he offer to either A, buy everyone a coffee, or B, shit on everyone's face and then do it again?
Not in my earshot, but I imagine that was saved for later in the afternoon.
I wonder if everybody
famous people.
Any more famous people?
Yeah, good question. Yeah.
Anyone's just because I thought Guz Khan right next to me. That was the most.
Yeah. Didn't you see Shipley as well? Yeah.
Shipley and Guz Khan. They were the two in our little region. Carl Baker as well. Sorry, I forgot to mention that Carl Baker was knocking about.
I can trump all of that.
Okay.
Who?
We were stood directly next to our good podcasting friends, Sky Blues Extra.
Oh wow! Wow.
Yeah. Dom, anyone more famous than that?
No. Actually, funny enough, I was stood next to someone who saw me tweet and is a lapsed listener to the show.
Oh, really?
He said he listened to us and then the pandemic happened. So
I thought Joey happened and he stopped after that. But
yeah, that's fair enough. I was really hoping that you were going to say that he just stopped listening because it got crap.
I mean, maybe he was just putting it politely.
Yeah. Or the pandemic. Oh yeah, the pandemic where we released all of the good episodes with
Yeah.
Tom Bayliss. Yeah, we didn't want him anyway. Right, okay, so there we go. Well, that's all the good bits. Oh, actually, yeah, my good bit, I guess, is their second goal getting disallowed. And I would say that I experienced something akin to a religious experience where I saw that get called off, because I just was so upset about it being scored. And then just before we started recording here, I was saying it to you guys that that it was the first time during the whole debacle episode, whatever you would call this last month or so, where I just thought, that's it, it's us. Like, you don't, an 82nd minute. And as well, is that to me, it looked like a massive miscarriage of justice. And then has anyone seen it back?
Yeah.
Not a miscarriage of justice.
Very, very handy, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. I've looked up the rules, and I would agree that is an unnatural position. So, but at the time, I just thought it was like some sort of divine intervention that had just like completely unfair, because they seemed genuinely aggrieved at it as well. But then you think, wow, you've got some nerve because you've just punched the ball out of the air.
You just can't see though, can you? Because this is the first time I think in history where I didn't spot the VAR or the flag or anything, and I was too busy being distraught. Normally, I'd be straight in there telling everybody around me what's going on, and there's a VAR check or anything like that. The moment I knew that it had been disallowed was the second I looked up at the screen and just saw that it was doing a check, and then the check had been completed, and it was just at that point everybody around us was just like, "What is happening here?" Like you say. If that happens for you, if that goes for you, surely your name is on the cup. Like it made no sense.
And I can't stand VAR. I really can't stand VAR. But I was like, yes. No. This one, it's fine.
It makes sense.
Good, yeah, you know. But then saying that is it was clear and obvious, wasn't it? So that's what it's there for. It's not to check interminably to see whether someone has been tripped on the halfway line. So fair enough, VAR doing its job. Right, okay, so anything pre-match that anybody wants to recount? Was anybody surprised by the team as a start point? Dom, did you think that we would start with Godden, or were you expecting it to be the way that it was?
Yeah, that's the team I expected. It was just like the way Middlesbrough away went. It was just a whole thing of, yeah, that's our team. Those are our guys. They're the ones that are going to see us over the line. So it was entirely unsurprising. I suppose the only surprising thing was seeing Palmer on the bench.
Yeah, true.
So, question then. Difficult to analyse the game, I guess, for a lot of us. And I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about it. But Neil, in terms of player performances, in terms of the game itself, who do you think stood out for you on the day?
I think it was kind of a bit of a roller coaster and a bit of a moving kind of target for a lot of their performances. I think overall, Ben Sheaf in the middle for sheer kind of tenacity and the ability to keep running all game long and just swivel on the ball every now and again I just thought he really stood out for me. And my go-to thing at the moment is to not trust my own judgment and check neutral judgment and see what the neutrals are saying. And he was very much a standout for a lot of people who didn't know Kov. And so that was kind of a little bit of validation on that point. I thought, Gus is just a little dynamo, isn't he? And again, I just think he was doing the things that you expect from him. And I also think Vic as well. Just again, it's the Wembley pitch, the huge, a mass of space he has to kind of travel, and how much of a nuisance he has to become. And again, I don't know why I value kind of energy so much at the moment, but the idea that he could do what he did for like the whole 120 minutes was just brilliant. So yeah, I think you called it earlier, and I think everybody's agreed that first half Luton were like step above us. I mean, Adebayo for their goal, that was just brilliant forward play, really, really good. I was kind of whinging about McFadden then, but I watched it again back, and it was just, well done to him. It was just class forward play. But I think the occasion took us a little while to get used to, and obviously the fact that something like Jamie Allen as well, was just, I don't know whether being tiny is a hindrance on the pitch like that, but it seemed to be. He just had no presence at all or ability to get involved. So it was the right switch to go to up front, and I think once that happened, it just allowed a few other players just to kind of work in a far more effective way. So yeah, it was a moving kind of target, but there were some good performances, I think, as we got into the second half and onwards.
Does the game bear any analysis?
I've refused to. So that's the most I've done.
Like, is it helpful or interesting, or is it one of them things where it ceases to be a football match and it takes on such a bigger kind of meaning and whatever that really saying Ben Sheaf swept up well is kind of is totally kind of overwhelmed by everything else?
I think it summed up our season in the sense that we weren't that good first half. I feel like that's been a recurrent theme, certainly in the past few months. I find that frustrating. But it's like with Middlesbrough, the away leg, I hadn't felt very confident at all. But my caveat was, if we go in at half time 0-0, I think we win it. And I think the same was true of Saturday. It's very easy to say that with hindsight, but Luton fell away second half, and that's where we really came into it. And it's like the nerves dropped. I turned to formerly of this parish, Lawrence Kilpatrick, and we discussed Brooke Norton-Cuffy, and I said, first half, this is really poor from him. I expected much better. But second half, I thought he was incredible. The runs that he was making and the strength that he had. And I think he made a massive difference for us. And I think that the difference between the two halves for him was sort of the same with the rest of the team. I think maybe by Liam Kelly, who I thought was pretty good all the way through. But in that, other than the mainstays that you were talking about, Neil, I felt that was the problem with the rest of the team, that they weren't able to raise their game enough first half. And I think that just scuppered us, which is a real shame.
Norton-Cuffy had that run, that Nelson Muntz run.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It
didn't matter how many players tackled.
Yeah.
Still able to bring the ball out somehow, which is totally remarkable. But yeah, I think, look, I'm not sensing a great desire to kind of pick apart this game. So instead, I think probably what we move on to is kind of having a look at the season as a whole. Does that sound like a good plan?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
sure.
would say so, yeah. Okay. So Dom very kindly has grabbed out all of Paul's standardized categories. So I'm going to fire them at you, and I'm going to ask you each to nominate your player who you would choose for these. So first and foremost, and I think this is going to be less tricky than it would have been a month ago, player of the year. Dom, do you want to start us off?
I'm still in the Gyökeres camp. Just think, he was around for the whole season, the entirety of it, and was just like our best player for at least 2/3 of it. And
you won't be swung by recency bias then, no?
No, just he carried us on our back through some pretty grim times this season, and even when things have been going bad, he's got Harmer to sort of help him out. He's really been helping him. Just that goal as well. He's got over 20 goals and over 10 assists this season, which is incredible. So in that, he's also not particularly stand out in finishing and link up. It's just that relentlessness, that ability to get into good areas so often and muscle defenders off and just do it all, and just turn a strategy of just getting the ball in his vague direction into something so effective.
We've talked about both of these things a few times, but I think it's probably worth repeating once more. He doesn't have to get a lot of goals for a player who's accused of missing chances all the time. And he doesn't have to get a lot of assists for a player that gets bollocked for not passing to teammates. I think he's the only. I think there's something like 6. Oh yeah. There's only 6 players in the whole football league that are in double figures for both. It might not even be that. I think it's like. I think it's Hamer and Jai.
Yeah.
Go on, Dom.
Trying to think who Aaron Collins in League One, I think, as well.
Collins, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Bristol Rovers.
Jack Clark.
Yeah.
Jack Clark is one. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he's on roughly the same as Hamer, like 10 of each, basically. I think he's just tripped over the edge. So Imogen, who would you choose?
I also
Biamo?
pick Victor. Yeah, no. Biamo in my personal time, but I think Victor this season has been phenomenal, and I love watching Gus. I'll miss them both, but over the whole season, Gyökeres' relentless frustration with his teammates when they fail to pass the ball to him, no matter what situation we're in, no matter what the scoreline is one of my favourite things about him. The other favourite is his goals. So yeah, I go Jock.
One of my total favourite moments of the season was him saying after he won the Players' Player of the Year that he was surprised by it because of how much he moaned. Paul brought it up on the way to Middlesbrough the other night. That like do you remember at the start of the season they do those videos where they get like two players round by the pool and they ask them questions about I love them videos, by the way. I think they're great. But I think there was 3 rounds of that, so 6 players that were interviewed, and Vic never comes up, apart from unless there's something overtly negative. There's no banter towards him. Like there's clearly no like he doesn't seem like he's in the group based on that. You know, like they're not like, oh, he's the worst dressed or what. He just. And as well, when they're like, who's the best finisher? They're like, oh, it's Super Matty Godden goal scorer, Super 3, where you're like, okay.
Yeah, but he's super good mates with, I'm taking this entirely from socials, but he seems to be really close with Ben Wilson, who appears to be quite a funny man. And I feel like unless he's deeply insecure in his humour and wants people to laugh only at him, I feel like there's obviously some kindred spirit there.
Well, yeah, hopefully for him. Neil, are you going to break with the Vic Lovin and go for Gus, or are you going to go for Championship Goalkeeper of the Year, Ben Wilson? Or
I'm going to have to go for Vic again. Only more because he's played the whole season. Didn't miss the first 2 months through not being on the pitch half the time. I think you've got to acknowledge just how good Hamer's been last 2-3 months. It's just been he has dragged us there, pretty much, him and Vic. But Vic, I think all round, you just for the sheer consistency and the fact that he's got over 30 goals and assists. It's incredible performance. Fair play to him.
Hamer, to be fair, Hamer's nearly got 25 goals and assists.
Is it 25 now? Is it? It's 23.
Well, because he was on 10 and 11 before the playoffs, and he scored 2 more goals. So I think he's on 24 or something, 23. Which for a player whose starting position most weeks is akin to a defensive midfielder, I would say, is otherworldly at this point. And alongside the immense performances of Liam Kelly, he did really feel like at times during the playoffs, like he was trying to win the whole thing on his own.
Loved it. Yeah.
I mean, I was some level of energy and performance. I was tired watching him and Bidwell, to be fair. Middlesbrough away in the second leg, the amount of running that the pair of them did, like it was almost uncomfortable to watch. When we put the votes in for Player of the Season, I voted for Vic for the same reason as you're saying, and I'm going to speak on Paul's behalf here. Paul would vote Gus, and his argument would be that people are talking about how brilliant he's been recently, but that is to forget how brilliant he's been for the whole of the season when he's been there. And I don't know if I can look past like a player that when it really mattered, just turned up beyond belief, and nobody could do anything about him. I don't know, man. I don't know whether I would swing at this point to Gus. I think I probably.
Well, I reckon let's not stress on it. I think they can both share it. Honestly, they're both being so brilliant. Like I think people are so like they want a definitive on this one, but like they've got their own stories and their own contribution, and like we are so bloody lucky with them. Really are. Like for them to have played how good they are. So I
more
retract my
interesting-
answer. I won't do both of them.
A more interesting question would be if you took them out of it, who would be your player of the season? Now that is a question that nobody is ready for, because nobody.
I'd go Wilson, I think.
But is Wilson getting it based on statistics or based on performances?
You love statistics. They're your
Yeah, they're better.
favourite thing.
I know. Numbers are much better than people. I'm
Yeah,
sure we'll all agree on
exactly.
that. Has he been brilliant, or has he kept a lot of clean sheets because he's got a really good defence in front of him? And that's
Isn't
not
that his
that's
job?
not a statement. I'm asking that as a question.
It's his job. I think coming in, being a number 2 keeper for that long, and then suddenly coming in and dominating in the manner that he has, when I thought probably he'd be, I don't know, second at best. We might get rid of him quietly. I think he's done a tremendous job. He's been helped enormously by having an incredible defence in front of him, I think. But yeah, he's done really well considering what he was at the start of the season. Maybe I'd put him as most improved rather than best player. I'm talking myself out of it now.
Well, no, but equally, I'm not. I sound like I'm joking, but I don't actually believe what I'm saying there. Like, I think one, you're right. Is what was the game last season? Right at the very end of last season, that was quite important that he dropped one where it was like, oh Christ, no, don't do that. I think of him as being, when he has played for us prior to this season, as being someone that has got a drop massively in him, and I don't think that's happened at all. And I also think that he was fine at the start of the season, and as the season's worn on, and unsurprisingly, the more experience, the more games, and the more regularity that you get, you improve. But he has improved. And actually, there's been a number of saves that have been really crucial. And in the playoffs, he came up and he tipped, was it the Cameron Archer effort onto the bar?
That was amazing.
In the first leg, sorry, yeah. So I, as much as I'm saying, is it about him having a fantastic defence in front of him? I don't actually think that purely, but I do also think that I think there's probably been better keepers in the Championship this season.
Yeah, but you didn't ask about them.
Well, no, but I know that's not me having a go at you. But I'm going to go to my man that I know has actual knowledge of it. I sort of think when to be in the Championship team of the year, I wonder if there's a load of other keepers looking at that and being like, I'm not sure about that. Dom, would he have been your Championship keeper of the year?
I think so. I think a lot of it comes down to there's been quite a few decent keepers in the Championship this season where they haven't had the whole season in goal, or they've had dips in form, like Stefan for Middlesbrough was dreadful for like the first 10 games and had to be dropped before he sort of got into the swing of things. Probably Freddie Woodman at Preston North End, where him being just absolutely brilliant, saving loads of shots, sort of Westwood style, just took what was a pretty average Preston team and put them very close to making the playoffs. I think he'd probably be the closest. I'm seeing a few people say Victor Johansson for Rotherham, but I haven't seen enough of him to be that confident. Sort of one of those. Is it better to keep a load of clean sheets? Or is it better to be busy as a goalkeeper?
Very good point. Young player of the Imogen, you went for Ben Wilson. Other candidates for player of the year for us, non-Gus or Vic, Dom, Neil.
Well, there's the third guy, isn't there? Sheaf.
Is Sheaf the third guy? Is he the second city of this team?
Yeah, I think he's pretty close. I think he has been he has picked up a couple of injuries this season, which sort of stopped him having like complete full runs it. But I remember at the start of the season when Gus was going AWOL and everything looked to be falling apart, it was Sheaf who was looking like the class act in the team, while Shocker is sort of getting warmed up, just adding a few sort of leadership qualities to his game. And you saw the second leg against Middlesbrough as well. I just really thought just having someone in the baseline midfield with a good touch and composure on the ball just made so much difference. And he's just gradually he's took that next step, I think, for me, from last season where it was his first consistent season to one where he's sort of staying up to be an actual key player that you can lean back on. So he's been great.
Neil?
Yeah, it's just who else has been brilliant rather than player of the year. Another player of the year for me. So Sheaf, I'd say McFadzean is in there for a lot of what he's contributed this year. Half of the season, McNally, absolutely impeccable almost. Doesn't make absolute player of the year, but it's just been superb. So yeah, they're the ones for me, I think.
It's funny with McFadzean because there's a counterintuitive sort of performance curve for McFadzean throughout his time here. The older that he's got and at the higher level that he's played at, the better he's been. But it's actually about what we've asked of him, isn't it? Is that he now isn't our out ball from defence because we've got Doyle or we've got Sheaf or we've got Hamer that we're trying to distribute it to. So we haven't got to worry about him. Like the mistakes have been cut out a lot because we're better. Do you know what I mean? Like there's other players to try and give it to. And the job that he's done has changed. He's now being asked to do such a restricted role that he's like, if he's a top trump card, more of which later, the things that he's being asked to do, he's tens for, isn't it? So, like, because I know that over the years I've had quite a big problem with him, where others have really loved him. But this season he's just been impeccable, hasn't he? Because if you want someone to stand in the middle of a back three, tell everyone what to do, and make sure that nothing gets past him, who else do you want, really?
Yeah, he's flanked so well by the type of players around him. Like whoever is on either side of him, it's just perfect for him because he is the sweeper, but not quite the sweeper. He's just there organising and allowing someone like McNally, who's just got rapid pace, to kind of get back when he needs to. And it's just like you say, it removes him from the line of fire, which I don't want McFadzean in a straight race with anybody really. Although he's proved himself pretty well.
Although less so for the goal on.
Yeah, prime example. Yeah, but I think just generally I just think as a leader, he's been really good this season.
Beautiful. Young player of the year, Dom.
Okay, so excluding loanees because they've actually just been all of our young players. It's got to be. I feel young player. It's got to be an award for one of your permanent guys, but you can take a different course if you want. But it's Josh Eccles. It's just been that year he's been waiting for a couple of years now, where he'd been around the team and just kept on picking up those niggly injuries. And then this year, he started off at right wing back, just gave him that taste for first team football. And then it was around like October when he finally got to start play in central midfield, and he's just really settled into being a first team regular for us, just someone you can just trust. He's going to come in and do the job. Even on Saturday when he came on in late stages, just added some nice energy, took a really good penalty, just like so composed. You wouldn't expect it from a young player like that. And if he can just add that next level to his game, which I think is just having a little bit more confidence and quality with his passing, that would be really handy. And we'd see him like properly make himself a starter next year.
Now, Neil, I know how much you love Defiance. Will you go for a lone player or will you go for one of our homegrown players?
Absolutely, the lone player. Yeah, somebody who's played all season. Yeah, I include them in that. I think Callum Doyle is my choice in that one, and he's probably more of a genuine young player. That I know Eccles is young. He's 23, but I still I think the spirit of the award for me is Doyle. I just think his growth through the season and the fact that he's played the entire season. I mean, he was at Sunderland last season and he kind of wore himself out pushing into the second half of it, and that was kind of an interesting thing for me as he's coming into the season, whether he could last the season, and if anything, he's kind of just become more and more comfortable. I just think so. I don't have the same kind of view on him as everybody else. I don't think it's a given that he's going to play for England or anything like that. I think he's got a lot of good attributes. I don't think he's necessarily the quickest, and I think that might hinder him as he gets on. I think to be an elite player, you've got to be rapid in the Premier League, and I think that might be his downfall ultimately. But I think his quality on the ball and just his ability to be steadfast in that defence and really grown to the role, so that it was undroppable basically, is a real testament to him. So yeah, he's my young player, and I agree with everything Dom said on Eccles, by the way. I just think, we were wondering if it could be, if he could make it really, and I think this season, the fact and the shining light, obviously, with the very last thing he did this season was score that penalty in the playoffs.
That's
ultimate test.
Some brave stuff that is in it as well.
Really good, really good. I was so impressed.
I wondered afterwards whether he'd been brought on to take a pen.
I think Mark Robin said afterwards that he basically just took the gamble with Palmer that he'd sort of win the game for us in normal time, and he just ran out, and Eccles is the last midfield player on the bench. But what a penalty, though!
Beautiful pen.
Yeah. Just it's like to be from Coventry, and apparently grew up a few doors away from me, which I think would surprise a lot of people to know that it breeds a lot of successful people from where I'm from. But that, like, to get on the pitch and then to know that all hangs on you, and to sort of feel it as deeply as he must have felt and still be brave enough to get up and take that penalty is astonishing, isn't it? Just on Doyle, Neil, if you're him, where do you aim to go next season?
I think for him, another loan in the Championship wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Like, I just think in terms of his development, Man City can probably afford to let him go to the Premier League, but he's still only 19. There's no huge rush on this one for him. I think another solid season in the Championship, and it's probably where it's going to be for him, I think will do him great. And whether that's do you get a player back second year? I mean, it's not Duffy, is it? I mean, does that happen anymore? Like,
I think the thing is, but I think that players want to see progression within their own players. So if you're Ian Maatson and you're Chelsea, you want him to go to us, and then you want him to go to Burnley. And I just wonder whether, if he goes to Leicester, does he play every week? Or if he goes to, I just wonder whether there is a better place for him than here. And I don't know whether that's only my optimism and my desire to get him back clouding my judgment. No. And as well as that, I just think we're asking him to do the sorts of things that Man City would want him to do. He is where the ball is going to from the keeper 9 times out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
And although saying that, I shouldn't imagine there's a lot of crosses that Man City are desperate to be had. maybe it is me being skewed by kind of the desire to get him back. He would be one of the first jobs for me would be to see whether we could get him back on loan.
We've not done ourselves any harm as well. I think we can't pretend that we haven't elevated our status in the league this season either. Like, wherever I know we've had teams coming down, and there's still big clubs now. It's a big old league next year, but given the status of the last couple of months and the fact that he's played so well for us, surely if he's coming to the Championship, we've got a shout of saying, look, we'll give him another year.
The other thing is that what we're desperate for where we've got a big problem this season is squad turnover. So we've got a huge potential problem, which is that we probably are going to have to sign somewhere in the region of maybe 7 to 10 players just to fill in. I think we've got one contracted centre back at the minute. Is that right? And that's 38-year-old. So you might need to sign 5 centre backs before you even get onto anywhere else in the pitch. And so, how you probably should go all guns blazing to try and get people back, just so that you're not having to learn everyone's names.
Yeah,
I don't see Robbins as being great with learning names in the first place, and that's a lot of name badges to pay for when you've already had to buy 10 players. Imogen, young player of the season.
I am also picking Callum Doyle. I think he shares with Sheaf that extra time on the ball that a lot of our other players don't have. He seems to be able to create it, especially when he's looking to play it forward. He just gives himself an extra 5-10 yards, and no one seems to be able to get near him. And I think I noticed it at QPR away in particular that his marshalling of the defence. He's so confident in speaking to them in a way that you wouldn't expect from a 19-year-old. Free kicks and other set play, he was really involved in organising everyone and checking that Wilson had the right side of the ball. And I think he would probably have taken a penalty had he stayed on the pitch. So that's a shame.
Yeah, he would have.
But yeah, I would have. I'd heard before that he was pretty damn good at them, and then obviously Robin said afterwards that he would have been lined up with Hamer and Palmer had they not gone off injured. So yeah, he's my pick.
So hang on a second, right? He gets to say Doyle, he gets to say Hamer, he doesn't get to say Palmer. He can't bemoan his bad luck that he didn't have Palmer on the pitch if he knew that he could only bring him on for about 20 minutes. He's like, oh, Jesus Christ, I didn't even know that he'd been injured for the last few months.
Oh, Waggle, man, bloody hell.
This Casey Palmer guy was meant to take a penalty in the 5 minutes that he got on the pitch. But yeah, Hamer and Doyle, you can have them. That's fine. You're not having Palmer. Anybody else in the conversation? I don't think there is for me, which is weird because I think of us as quite a young team, but the young team is actually 24 or 25, isn't it, rather than 21? I weirdly think that that's another contributory factor to why we've been quite good this season is actually age range wise, we're not like we were, at different points in the past where either we're all 21-year-olds or all 32-year-olds. It's quite a nice balance of experience and youth, isn't it? Right, most improved. I'm going to waffle for a second just to give you a little bit of thinking time, and then I'm going to come to Dom. I think we have talked about it a little bit, haven't we?
Yeah, so I mean, there's the obvious candidate for most improved, Ben Wilson. Yeah, he was someone who scared me whenever he was on the pitch before. Remember, particularly towards the end of last season, it was really noticeable just how kamikaze he was coming off his line, and he gave away a couple of penalties, just going completely reckless off his line. And just thought I went like during pre-season when there was sort of talk about, oh, who's going to be number one? It's like it's going to be Simon Moore. Come on, be serious. But he's massively calmed down. And I suppose the thing with Ben Wilson is he's a 31-year-old player, but his experience is basically that of like a 20-year-old, and maybe we hadn't really accounted for that actually playing 40 games over the course of the season has given him that experience he just hasn't had, and he's really come on leaps and bounds. He looks just so much more confident, more assured with his decision making, and I just think there's just absolutely no question now that you'd have him as number one in goal. There's no need to mess around there over the pre-season. It would be a massive call for Mark Robins, I think.
Would anyone disagree with
that? The general point, or somebody else?
Yeah, no. You would, would you if you sell Vic and Gus for good money, and there is money sloshing about, and the chance arose, would you try and upgrade your keeper?
I think Mark might have it in his mind. I don't think he fell into Bell Wilson on purpose. I don't think that was a purposeful decision, and I think he's got form for like accidentally having players, but still then wanting to fight. Like Bidbar's played 50 games this season, and we've just gone and got a left back. Like these things are, you've got what you want, and then you've got what you end up with. And I think absolutely, if we'd gone up, definitely he would have gone straight for a new keeper. I think there's no way he would have stuck with that, but I wouldn't be surprised if he brought somebody else in. Maybe because even if Simon Moore wants to disappear, like he's only got
Simon Moore has to leave, doesn't he? Surely,
which means we
for
need
his own sanity and yeah.
So which I see another keeper coming in some form. Whether it will be competition, but maybe with an eye of actually this guy might be better. But you can't really say that because you've got the keeper of the year in your team.
Fair dues. Anybody, rather than coming to you two, is there anybody else in that conversation for most improved?
I have Bidwell in my mind, not necessarily because I think he's playing much differently to how he does. I just think he's adapted to the team, and he's in there now, and he's played 50 games, and to keep Wilson Esbrand out, where there must have been pressure to get that guy playing on the pitch from Man City, purely because he's just a solid and comfortable character. I think I give him credit for that, and I don't have the same thoughts on him as I did last year. Where last year I just thought he was just he looked so unfamiliar to the whole lineup and the whole team. And while I think we probably ultimately need a different kind of left wing back, I just think he made it so that he couldn't be dropped because of his performances and the fact that he was you said it, like, he is an absolute tank as well. How he does it, how he gets up and down in the way that he does, it's phenomenal. So for me, now that I don't have the same kind of issues with him, he's my most improved.
Yes,
The other thing
I had Wilson and Bidwell as well. But honourable mention to Brooke Norton-Cuffy, as discussed earlier. I know he's only been there for half a season, so I wouldn't have picked him as the top one, but I think he's improved tremendously.
And if we're doing that, can we also say Liam Kelly in terms of
Sure.
the last 6 games he has improved immensely compared to where he was in any of the other appearances this season? It's incredible.
It was an eye opener. With Bidwell, just quickly, to some extent, I wonder whether Bidwell whether he has improved, or what's happened is that people's expectations have finally kind of
Probably that.
reached an equilibrium, because every Swansea fan fell over themselves when he signed to tell us that he was the best player that we were ever going to get. I think when we saw him, we were quite disappointed by what he was, which was a perfectly functional left wing back. And then from there seemed to be a kind of ludicrous groundswell of pro Jake Bidwell sentiment at the start of this season, where people were like, this guy is actually brilliant. And now it's kind of, do you know what? He's had a good season. And I wonder whether actually in 18 months, he's just, and he doesn't seem like this sort of player, has just put in a constant succession of identical performances, but that people have gone, he's got worse or he's got better just because of what they were expecting from him.
That in itself isn't no mean feat, though. Like, perfectly identical performances for 18 months is actually pretty. But like you say,
No.
it's.
But that's not a criticism of him so much as it is a criticism of our fans and their kind of, and me included, obviously, the way that we're influenced by external factors. That actually, that what we think has been a curve for him has in fact been a curve for us, and he has just gone about his business day to day as sort of routinely as it's possible to do. I'll leave that one to hang. The next up is best goal. I'm going to come to you, Imogen, first.
Hamer against Luton, not that one. The one in the 2-2 draw away.
Yes.
Because it was a fucking brilliant goal, but also what it meant. We'd had such a torrid time before that, and we played really badly first half, and it was again Hamer dragging us up by sheer force of his boot, and it was really nice to be stood right behind it and watch it go in. It was lovely.
Remind everyone of how that got.
Sorry, Joey. I got delayed, so I keep interrupting you. But have I got it wrong? Did that even make the list of goal of the season? I don't even remember that being on the list.
I don't think it did.
And I might have to check it later. But
so I've got the list here, or at least I've got the voting form. I think I've just got the vote. Fair play. We must have had some goals this season, because you can just, I think I can choose from the nominees here. No, it's a YouTube video, unfortunately. Why have I got to watch a video nowadays to try and get anything?
Just tell me, just in the Premiership, they just always like, watch this video, and 5 minutes down the line, you find out who's on the subs bench. Like,
I just want the list. I just want to look at a list. Sorry for those the uninitiated, Imogen, just give us a brief rundown of what that goal looked like.
Oh, it was good. I can't remember it. It was a volley.
That's evocative.
little bit of interplay on the edge of the box. Good drops out. He nudges it around and swoops it around.
And he just smacks it. You were
Kablamo.
there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Other nominees for goal of the season. Dom.
I've got another one which, like Imogen, may have been strongly informed by being in the away end and having it happen right in front of me. But Harmer's against Stoke,
Yeah.
where it's the give and go with Palmer, gets into the area. There's 3 defenders. There's absolutely no angle for him to get a shot on goal, and he just bisects them with a little jink, and then curls it perfectly into the top corner, right in front of the away end, and it was just incredible because it was just all the way through that maybe going, well, you can't keep on going here. You can't keep on going here, and it was just bang, 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 and then right into the net. And especially that game was his return as well from suspension, and he had assisted Alan's goal before that, and it was just like, I'm back, guys, and I'm going to track you up the league.
I mean, I don't think you can say that it was informed by the fact that you were there. It's an incredible goal. it's like the Liam Walsh goal against
Rochdale.
The real one that sticks. I don't think it's much behind that. Like, it is behind it, but that it's an absurdly good goal to score in an away game as well. I think it's an absolute it's a feast for the eyes. Any other candidates for you, Neil?
Gyökeres last minute, was it at home against Wigan? Was it Wigan?
Wigan,
that one where he went from brought it down and again, it's my favourite thing of having a load of energy that nobody else has got. That was part of the thing, but also just the touch and the quality just to drive on through and just to leave everybody in his wake. Yeah, I love that one.
I don't know. I think so. When I've talked to external people about why Gyökeres is so effective, it's that goal that comes up all the time, because it's like a 30-second YouTube show reel of all of his skills that he's tried to put out. He's able to chest the ball so high up in the air that it gives him the chance to elbow a player out of the way, bring it down in such a way that he's able to beat another player, then in the 92nd minute run fast enough past 2 other players they're not able to catch him, and then run 50 yards and slot it past the keeper. That's a lot of things for one player to be able to do all at the same time.
It's very special.
Am I getting it wrong? Does he head it in the air to start?
I think he heads it.
Does he head it? Because in my head, what happens is he chests it about 30 yards in the air.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Whatever it is that he does, it's audacious to be able to try it, and then it's incredible to be able to pull it off. That was sensational. Can I suggest, is it Millwall away, where he's been chipping away at them all game, and then he scores the second goal in a 2-0 win? It might be somebody else, but I think it's Millwall.
Somebody else.
No, we lost 3-2.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Maybe it's Millwall at home. He backs. Basically, it's the second goal. He receives the ball with the back to goal, backs into a player, rolls them off, and then just wangs it into the bottom right-hand corner.
Huddersfield.
Is it Huddersfield at home?
Oh, yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
You just, because he'd beaten up on their defenders all game, but not got a lot out of them, and it was one of them things where you were like, he's gonna score at some point, and
Actually, that's not Huddersfield, is it?
I think everyone knows what goal I'm talking about.
Everybody knows the goal.
It was one of them goals where their defenders were like, "Will you just give us a break, please?" Because they'd done so well to try and keep him under wraps, and then he was just like, "It doesn't matter what you do, I will find a way to score."
The Huddersfield away one was brilliant, because you could see Warnock in the background throwing his hands up as soon as Gyökeres got the ball. He was like, well, obviously he's going to score, and he did.
Whoop, and then he did that finish.
Yeah.
Who knew he could do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's been quite good, hasn't he, Gyökeres? Right, okay, so that's been some fun. Best game? Dom, go and start us off.
The one that really stands out for me as like our best just like team performance in a game this season was QPR at home just for the World Cup break. We'd had that run just from being like really solid defensively and countering on teams, and we climbed the table and you thought, okay, where can we go next? and we just absolutely flew at QPR in that game. Just dominated. Like certainly the first 45 minutes, we just completely took it away from them, completely overwhelmed them. They were up near the playoffs at the time, and we're just going, well, if that's the standard, then we're gonna smash it, and just completely overpowered them. Plus, there was also sort of boost, kind of like us at our best, because we had all of our players basically. We had Palmer, Harmer, Godden, O'Hare. O'Hare was fantastic in that game. I think 2 assists basically. I think he might have not got the first assist technically, because I think he plays it across the goal and then Allen air kicks it and it ends up at Gyökeres. And the second one is O'Hare just driving at a defender, sucking all sorts of attention away from Gyökeres and just laying it off for Gyökeres for the easiest kind of finish. It's kind of like, well, if he'd stayed fit the whole season, how much better could we have been? That was just such a really confident performance.
Yeah,
all round.
It's a funny one with O'Hare. I think O'Hare, for all of the criticisms and whatever he's had on here in the past, actually, when he played this season, I thought he was great. He is like it was a real step up again this season for me in terms of his performances. I just think the bits of his game that are so important to us, I felt like they really developed this season when he was playing, and they made such a crucial difference. And I thought he was more decisive on the ball. I think as well, it helped him that he'd often got Palmer next to him when he was playing, because I just felt like those two were much more on the same wavelength, which I feel like it needs to be a priority this transfer window, is to make sure that we have got that creativity there. That's the players that we've got that need players around them have got the players around them to function. So any other contenders for game? I mean, I was going to chuck in a couple of extras for different reasons, not necessarily on the pitch, although on the pitch as well. But the West Brom game that we won 1-0 with the penalty in extra time, just because that felt like a real kind of high watermark in terms of, like, I think they'd won 7 games in a row after Corberan had come in. Is he called Corberan?
Like
Is that the guy? Yeah.
Yep.
And that was a real test of how serious we were up to that point, although we didn't realise that we were going to lose loads after the World Cup. And Birmingham at home, just because, I mean, it was just a beautiful event.
Yeah. I have a weird one, not for the way we played, but just for how important the Blackburn away one. That point, the difference that point makes compared to, that we went from probably not making the playoffs to having a real chance, through Ben Wilson's chest. I mean, that was probably the moment that I thought, hang on, it's all going our way, and that was a big one for me, because it's funny enough, I can't think of too many. Seems weird to say, but too many complete performances this season. I think Dom's one, QPR, was actually really good, and then we were so sort of blistering on the counter and basically wearing teams down in different ways. Second half of the season, or the 4-0s that we had away and all that sort of stuff, it all seemed to be just wearing teams down until they couldn't handle it anymore. Then just going to score a couple of goals to make it look good for us. But yeah, weirdly, I thought Blackburn, and I for other completely different reasons, the playoff final was just a weirdly great day.
There's lots of, I know we've talked about this a lot over the last 10 years. There's lots of ways to be good at football, by the way. And I don't think if you were an Atletico Madrid fan that you would think about all the times that you blew people away. I think you'd think about the fact that your incredibly pragmatic style of football won you the league in improbable circumstances and things like that. So I agree with you. I don't think there have been, I also don't think we're a great footballing side, as I've seen a lot of people say about us this season. But I also don't think that's a criticism. Like, I think it's perfectly fine to weather unbelievable amounts of pressure from people, not wither to it, and then score 1 goal and win a game. It's not necessarily an exclusively aesthetic event, is it?
And when we do it, we do it well as well. I think it's kind of fleeting, the idea that people think we're just this attritional team. People don't see us that often, think we're that sort of team because of the way we had to play against Middlesbrough. But when we do the good things, I mean, those counter-attacking goals a great play. The goal we scored in the final the
Yeah.
other day, it's a great goal. And just because we do it really quickly and directly doesn't mean it's not good. It just means we're also really good at weathering the storm and just allowing Swansea to have 70% of the possession if they really want it. We'll do our own little thing. It's good play from us.
I spoke to the guy in Germany that covered that was commentating on the game, and he'd asked about kind of like just general Cov questions because he wanted to be informed when he was commentating on it. And he said that he'd watched us a few times this season, and he said it felt to him like a very German way of playing. And I talked to him about it for a little bit, and he said a German way of playing now is basically a Jurgen Klopp way of playing, and that I don't think Liverpool are a tremendously brilliant footballing side, but I really enjoy watching them.
Yeah.
Like I just think that there seems to be a kind of aesthetism in football now that if you're not passing the ball 5,000 times a game, that somehow that you're sort of troglodytes. It just doesn't exist. But there you go.
I listened to the Totally Football show earlier, and Daniel Story was on, and he said that Luton and us were the two most physical teams he'd seen this season. And I don't think he meant it in a particularly derogatory way. And he said it was going to be interesting to see how that fared in the Prem next season. But yeah, I take it as a compliment that we're seen like that.
I think, yeah, I've got very personal experience of this, of how things can be said. It can be taken out of context. Like, I think the thing of, I got a lot of criticism for describing McNally and McFadzean as headers and kickers. But I mean that with all the love in the world. That's the job that they're being asked to perform. And what I'm saying is that they do it fantastically well. Like, I don't know why. I don't know why it can't be that there are lots of valid ways to enjoy or sort of perform football. Anyway, the right. So biggest. I mean, do we want to do biggest flop? Is there even a biggest flop?
I think. I mean, if we want to be harsh, Simon Moore, I'd say, because he completely forgot how to be a goalkeeper at the start of the season.
I mean, it's fair.
Like every game he played, he was chucking them in. And last year he was so good.
I think that's pretty much on the money, I think, isn't it? And I think I'm going to get away with saying that as well, because I'll use this phrase. I think Simon Moore would say that about himself as well. I think he will realise that he's... So I'm not mean. He agrees it himself. He's probably not played as well as he could have done in those few games.
Did we expect more out of Martin Waghorn this season?
Nope.
There we go. Worst game.
Oh, Norwich away. By
Norwich
far
away.
and away, the most depressing. I came out of Norwich away thinking, oh my God, we could lose Robbins. He could go. And I've never felt like that before or since. But it was so bleak. I think Palmer was probably the only player on the pitch who vaguely looked like he was going to do something interesting. But yeah, that was bad. Dark times.
Stoke at home.
Yeah, I mean that was not, it was a wake up call. It felt like one. You're like, how did that happen? Like I didn't see us losing 4-0 to anybody because we'd done so well to that point, and they looked so much better than us, which is also terrifying.
I know
that
now
felt more like an aberration rather than
it does in
like the
hindsight,
Rotherham away.
Which is what I was going to say. Is actually it's like it's now we can look back on it and say, oh, but at the time it sort of felt like actually this could be our season falling apart.
Yeah. Have we been blagging this for a while? That's what I thought. And luckily, we hadn't been. We just went back to playing exactly the way we had been. Mine is Wrexham, just because I didn't want to lose to a non-league team.
Oh, come on.
Oh, it's a great game, but different. We're talking about different games and stuff. I just thought losing to Wrexham was fucking shit.
I know that you're not. Yeah, I know that you're not really meant to say this. That's got to be a contender for best game. That game was.
That's also the best game. But it's shit that we lost it. We let in 5 goals. Simon Moore was useless. How did that happen?
How could you not enjoy? I mean, it was just. But it was, again, in terms of, to use your word, aberration, it was just batshit, wasn't it? It was just.
Yeah, that's what it was.
I don't think it's the worst. It's one of the worst performances from a Coventry City team I've ever seen. And it happened to be from the best Coventry City team I've seen in the last 20 years. Like, it was just something was in the air. Like it wasn't happening, was it? And also, we could have easily have won that game. What 10-5? Like
if I'm answering as a Sky Sports pundit, I'm definitely saying it's the best game. As a club fan who didn't want to lose to them, I was like, oh Jesus Christ, how have we done this?
But
Mark's still salty about it.
Well, that makes me feel
Did you listen to that? I don't know if any of you watched that long-ranging interview with David Prutton on the eve of the and it talks about, oh, Mark, haven't the fans been great? He went 100% of the time. I would say 99.5% of the time, the fans have been great. And I knew what was coming, and it did. He had a little dig about us not being supportive enough about Wrexham. It just made me love him more. But it's obviously a real bugbear with him that we weren't thrilled that we'd tossed it away to Wrexham.
He was furious, wasn't he, as well?
Yeah, he was.
Don't forget, right? So hang on a second. If we have a look quickly at the starting team, because the other thing is that there's a bit of kind of turning pointism about that game. Simon Moore started that game. Panzo got sent off in that game, if people remember that.
Yeah.
And I think that might have been the beginning of the end for Jonathan Panzo in terms of regular first team appearances. I think that was the point where he ceased to. Bidwell started in the middle of the back three. Michael Rose started on the right. And again, that's a player that, if you remember back to the start of the season, didn't cover himself in glory particularly. Kelly played that day. Jack Burrows played that day. And Waghorn and Tavares started up front together. So, like, I know it was a bad team performance, but to some extent, did it not signify the players that maybe we needed to shove into the background a little bit more?
I think Mark said that himself as well. Some people have been knocking on his door, hadn't they? And I don't know who that was. Do you think it might have been Waghorn or somebody just saying they need to get more time? And he was like, no, nobody can knock on my door.
Never again.
I've removed my door. What are you going to do about it?
But I think that, like, I'll go out there and say, Panzo is not my guy at all. I don't get what's going on. And there's somebody today saying that his either one of his social media posts is like he's suggesting that he might come back. And as much as I was saying earlier about not wanting to recycle the squad, and if we can get players back in from this season, not for me.
Do you know what that hint is? Him saying "see you soon." That's not hinting anything. It's just a "see you soon." Like,
the same as the people talking about Gus staying next season because he's saying next season we need to pull together. Yeah, call off the search, guys. He's definitely staying. Right, okay. I think we've got one left, and then I apologise to everyone of how long this has gone on for. Biggest disappointment.
Well, come on,
Neil. Resist. I know what you want to say. Resist the temptation.
This is me resisting. Somebody else is going to have to answer.
I can't look past Saturday.
Yeah, my one is having to have sold Hyam at the start of the season. That was a real kicker. Just made things like made everything just feel so rotten at the start of the season. It's like on top of the pitch issues, on top of playing so poorly, on top of being bottom of the league, then to get rid of just like one of your most solid players, and then Blackburn coming out and saying, "Oh, we paid less for him than we thought we would." And it's like, oh, this is horrible. And he's great for them this season, and he's making the Scotland squad. And
their player of the season. Our season turned around when we signed a proper replacement for him that probably is about as good.
Yeah. But he would have been like, if we'd made it to Wembley with him, we would have been another one of the League Two guys in the final, completing the journey.
I'm not. I don't think I'm actually. The more I think, I'm not actually disappointed though this season. So I can't pick out, like, obviously I wanted us to go up, but other than that, it's been a great season. So I can't pick out like real disappointments. Hyam's probably the one individual moment where I was like, oh, that's a real shame, because I had an an affinity to him, which he doesn't know about. But other than that, like, no, just obviously not going up after we've gone so far is the only disappointment I can think of. Other than that, I think it's been a really good one.
The pitch debacle, Doug King coming in and saying, I'm going to be behind the ground, and then it actually went to Mike Ashley. How about that? Was that disappointing to anybody?
It was quite amusing, I thought, the whole thing, really. Like, yeah.
I've got a feeling that we
done
won't
any
find...
due diligence. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to find Mike Ashley owning the ground very amusing in a few years' time. I've just got half a sense that that's going to be something that is a bone of contention amongst other people. The form at the start of the season linked to the ground, the form after the World Cup.
Yeah, the form after the World Cup I found pretty despicable. We were so excited, and we'd done so early. Talk about the West Brom game earlier, and it just petered out completely.
I'm now excited.
But it didn't matter in the end.
I'm now excited about next season because I've decided in my head that Vic and Gus are doing the work of two good players. They're so good on their own that all we need to do is, if we sell them, we can buy 4 players to replace them, and I think we can get a functional team together, right? But I can't help look at this season as a missed opportunity, even for as unbelievably good as it has been and so unbelievably far ahead of expectations, because I don't know whether we're going to be blessed with a chance to go up in the same way as we had with this particular season, in the way that I think clubs had been hit by COVID and the makeup of the teams that were in the division. So I think under normal circumstances, I don't think Reading would have been as bad or have going to be anywhere near going down. I don't think Norwich and Watford would have had as bad seasons as they've had, given that they were in the Premier League last year. And I just don't see like Leeds and Leicester and Southampton, Leicester maybe, being as bad next season. And so I think it's churlish, because what an incredible season. For me, in terms of disappointments, that we didn't maximise the opportunity that we had, I think is as disappointing as I'm absolutely thrilled by how brilliant the season has been overall. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I kind of get it. Like, in a way, I kind of said it last year in the sense where I was disappointed at the way that last year felt. I felt like that was an opportunity. And I didn't know what this year was going to bring, because you think we were 4th at Christmas last year, and it just felt like with everything that we had, all the players in playing well, I felt like that was a missed opportunity. And then we do what we did this season, and you sort of think, so I don't think any of us can predict or is trying to predict, but I like what you're saying there about the idea that, there's a replaceable element to what those two guys are doing if you're smart about it. Like, they are that good, but there's something you can do about it. You just have to change.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is, now we're not aiming to buy freaks.
You don't go
the goal isn't we're not going to try and buy a player that can do everything in those positions. What we're going to try and buy is, with the greatest of respect to Matty Godden, I think that the system warrants having 2 strikers. And so I think rather than replacing Vic, I think you try and buy a strike partnership. I think you use 20 million quid to spend probably, if you're lucky, 10 million quid in total, but you're aiming to use the money wisely, and you buy a strike partnership. And likewise I think you're probably buying functional options at wing back, so that you've got the choice to either be solid or to be really attacking, and you choose which one you play for the certain games. And I think you probably upgrade one of your central midfield options, knowing that Hamer's either going to get suspended, or that Sheaf's going to get injured, or that whatever, and you upgrade one of your number 10s. And I don't know whether that probably does the job in actually a more... Like, if Vic or Hamer had got injured this season, would have been fucked from the moment that it happened. Whereas actually, if you just got a better team, I wonder whether actually that's more... whether you go through them bad runs that we went through, or whether you suffer like we did when Hamer got suspended.
But that's like the residual impact of or what we've done this season. Ultimately, suddenly you know, while we're disappointed, suddenly your stock has risen. You get more money from selling these players. It means you're then in the market and you have the resources to actually mold something which becomes even more elevated than it was before. Like, and you probably all the other stuff that goes alongside it. The fact that we had 37,000 people there. You get the residual impact of more people wanting to come to the ground. You get all of this stuff kind of builds up.
Yeah.
And it's more than just. we're going to lose 2 good players, and we don't know what we're going to do about it. Like there's a kind of an optimism there for me, certainly, where it's like we can shift forward further.
I just think I was fixated on the fact that we wouldn't be able to replace them 2 players, and I couldn't see any way around that problem. And actually, I've come to realise that there is a way of doing it. It's just not
reframe
you
it.
have to not. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. Okay. So I know we're at 1 hour and 20. Do you want to leave, or do you want to push on for the Top Trumps game?
I mean, is this our last one of the season? We're allowed to go big, aren't we?
I mean, it's more. I don't care. Look, I don't care about the listeners. They're peasants. They are.
You better laugh at that point.
You've got to ask yourself, right? Given everything, given the journey that we have been on this season, from the kind of long gaps in doing any podcast at all to dropping down to a month, the second tier podcast debacle, right? If people are still even downloading the podcast in the first place now, these cretins are going to listen to any old shit that we put out. I'm thinking just about your 3's time, right? Is the only reason that I would even bring this up. These listeners, there's nothing to it.
It's optimistic going for the plural there, Joey.
These guys are these are slaves at this point. We don't need to worry about this, okay? The question is, are you 3 happy to kind of give up another 10 minutes of your life for, this absolute nonsense that we're about to do?
Yeah, sure, I am. I see faces of other people who aren't. So,
Dom, for your benefit, we'll try and keep this brief, okay?
Dom's face.
Right. Years ago, an incredibly kind gentleman sent me a message. And
Right,
said,
you say you're going to keep it brief, and you start off with years ago. Come on.
Years ago.
Years and
Right.
years ago.
Way back in the old timey days, an incredibly kind gentleman sent me what I now, for the first time, have only just realised is a set of Hot Trumps cards that he had made based on Coventry City players over the years. The challenge here is going to be that I've pulled the most recognisable. There's a lot of old players in there that I've culled while we were talking, and I've gone for players that will be hopefully recognisable to everyone. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through their stats, and then I'm going to go. If nobody gets it off the stats, then I'm going to go through the blurb and take their name out of the blurb to point to the people that get the player first. Okay.
One question: what is the portion of time that we're looking at? Where was the most latest player?
I think the oldest debut is in the early 80s, but the vast majority of the players that I've picked are 90s onwards.
Right, so.
And as you can probably guess, the 80s players are like Oggy. Do you know what I mean? Like this is not like hardcore super knowledge, all right? I'm going to start with an easy one just because, like, let's have an easy one. I'm going to go one by one. Debut in 1994. I think it's the way that it's got to be is realistically it's got to be one guess per card. So like you can't just keep going and going. Once you've had a failed guess on the card, then you don't get to go again, okay? Debut 1994. Appearances 171. Goals 72. International caps 3. Legend status.
Yes, I knew that one.
Here we go. So we've got a flavour of how the game looks, okay? Debut 1999. Appearances 34. Goals 12.
Robbie King.
International. This is why you pay this guy the big bucks.
I feel I got that one first, but I'm on delay, so I'm going to blame.
Yeah, that felt today-ish.
I'm happy to go. I mean, Imogen is is an independent advisor here. Did you hear that from Dom or Neil first?
Oh, I said it really early. It's just no one heard
Oh,
it.
yeah.
I heard Dom, but
this is going to kill me, isn't it?
Debut 1985. Appearances 488. Goals 13. No international caps. Legend status 8. And then the blurb, Bugsy played in all
Brian
but
Burrows.
one
Brian
game of
Burrows.
the...
Please tell me I was first on that one.
Yeah, you were first. on
Well done, Imogen. This is it. Does anyone remember that episode of Phoenix Nights where it's Lancashire versus Yorkshire and the guy's really biased? Yeah. Okay. Debut 1999. Appearances 138. Goals 4. International cap 17. Legend status 8. The big defender was a cult hero with the fans.
Cognac.
Cognac.
That was definitely me.
Oh,
That was
I think it
definitely
was.
me.
It was in unison
Yeah, I
of
think
mine. That's all I'm going to say.
I think it was. No, there was one voice that was definitely in there first, but it was difficult to tell. Imogen, you're getting the point. Debut
you.
1984. Appearances 282. Goals 62. International caps 1, which feels scandalous, really. Legend status 7, which also feels quite scandalous given that Mo Cognac has got a legend status of 8. This striker scored 5 goals in Coventry's 7-2 win against Chester City in the League Cup in 1985. I'm going to throw in my own 282. I'm going to throw in my own bit of help here. This player started in the 87 Cup final.
Keith Houchin.
No.
Phil Klein.
No. Debut 1984. Appearances 282. Goals 62.
Dave Bennett.
I'm afraid it's one guess per card, so it's only Neil
It's not
that's left
Cyril,
in
is it?
the. Is it? Are you guessing Cyril or I
I'll
don't know
guess
whether
Cyril. I'll guess Cyril.
it's a point for Neil.
Ah. I thought we had more
Debut.
international caps.
You would have thought so, wouldn't you? And
Yeah.
also, 282 appearances and played in the cup final. Legend status 7, but obviously these are subjective.
Right.
And Mo Cognac, legend status 8. Debut 1990, appearances 117, goals 35, international caps 10, legend status 6.
Unlove.
No.
It's too late.
This player scored a hat-trick in the classic 5-4 victory over Nottingham Forest
Gallagher?
in the Rumbelows Cup. It is indeed Kevin Gallagher, yeah. You guys are Neil in the lead at the moment, despite the delay. Debut 1984, appearances 601, goals 1, international
Stevie
cap
Grizovic.
0. Oh, Neil. Command performance. Debut 1983, appearances 209, goals 35, international cap 0, legend status 7. This person scored City's first goal in the 1987 FA Cup final,
Bennett.
and it was from... Oh, this is an absolute fucking
Did
massacre.
bat myself earlier.
Debut 1997, appearances 79, goals 0, international caps 2, legend status 7. This
Is it
Swedish
Stephen-
international,
Oh, no.
Magnus Hedman.
Henderson.
Imogen with the point. Sweden international Nilsson was a model professional who played at right back and also managed City for 1 season. Debut 1996, appearances 140, goals 26, international caps 13, legend status 6. This player must have got more than 13 international caps. Are you kidding me?
Is that
Kieran
when they're
Love?
with
No.
Cov?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Maybe it's while they're with the club because it's unfeasible
How many
to
international
think
caps
that this
does Nielsen have?
See, he played a
2.
ton for Sweden.
That
Yeah.
might have thrown me then, yeah.
He played like World Cups and
No,
European Championships.
No. He only played 2 times for Sweden in total.
Legendary 2 games.
Yeah. Okay.
Played
It
one
might be.
more
It
time than
might
Martin
be.
Lorentzen.
It might be. Yeah, but who was the better player? Only time will tell. International caps 13, legend status 6. This Scot was a key player in
McAllister?
the end.
You've had a guess.
Did I?
Don't
I missed
listen
one.
to him, Joey. He said
you
Peter
guessed
Unlove.
Dovu.
I'm not
Who did
having
I
this
guess?
cheating. You guessed Peter Unlove. I heard you.
No, I wanted to hear
Imogen saying
Dalton
you
say his
guessed
name
Peter
again.
Unlove.
Don't lie to me.
Dom, did you just say Ndlovu?
Yeah, and Ndlovu.
I'm not happy with this one bit. What's happening here?
That is how he says his name.
Does he really?
Ndlovu was just made up by a commentator. He couldn't be bothered.
What lives have we been living? This is ridiculous.
That's good knowledge if that's true. I've got
Okay.
no reason to disbelieve you, but everyone else has ever. We've got 5 left, and then we can all get on with our lives. Debut 1992, appearances 81, goals 4, international caps 8, legend status 6. This player played at centre back for the Republic of Ireland during all 4 of their games
Phil
in
Babb.
1994, and that is Dom. Debut 1995, appearances 362, goals 1, international
Richard
caps
Shaw?
0. It's huge. It's absolutely huge to begin it there. Legend status for all those of you that are interested, 7.
Mm.
Debut 1996, appearances 108, goals 34, international cap 0, legend status 6. This player
Darren
grabbed
Huckabee.
No Whelan.
Oh, Dom, absolutely owning it right.
Nice.
This is huge. Imogen, you've got no chance. You might as well just shut up now.
I've already
The,
given up, Joey. I gave up some time ago, I'll be honest. Just been planning my day tomorrow.
There's 2 left. Dom, you're 2 behind.
Okay.
I'm tempted to record this. Just in case. I want to
Debut
get that delay on.
Debut 2007. Appearances 95, goals 24, international caps 8, legend status
Stern John?
6. Dom, you've got a clean run at this.
Okay.
Dealey Adebola.
Don't worry about it. What have we told you, Imogen? You're not even here. I've got now, Dom. This is going to be quite an oblique description for you to get this off.
Okay.
The Mosquito scored 2 goals at Old Trafford for Manchester
Michael
United
missed it.
in 2007.
What was I doing? I'm having to jump in because of the delay. It's killing me.
Debut. Don't blame the delay.
Sure, the delay.
Debut. Right. I'll tell you what I am going to do here as well. This is the last one, but I'm going to break with tradition by telling you my own piece of trivia first. I've sold suitcases to this gentleman. As a child,
man who travels.
Yes. Debut 1991. Appearances 196. Goals 40. International caps 26.
Kobe
Legend
Jones.
status 7.
Nope, not Kobe.
This is why you've only got 2, Imogen.
Look, I'm younger than all of you. It's not my fault.
You're not. Are you younger than Dom?
Right, even as I said it, I doubted myself.
Now, I might need help with the pronunciation of this name because on the blurb it says Zimbabwean. This player's pace. Well, I don't know whether I can give you the point for that, Neil, because I don't recognise the pronunciation of that name. It's not. It is. That isn't in no way what this says on the card.
I believe you. Oh no!
From the jaws of death, Neil snatches the win. There we go. Fantastic. These are tremendous cards, and I'm terribly sorry that I can't remember the name of the person that sent them to me. But they're very lovingly created, and they're very good. And we would have done more of these, but I don't know who Ronnie Reese is, and I don't know who, for example, Billy Lake is. Debut 1928. There we go. And so that is, I guess, the last podcast of the season. We've not done much Jay Da Silva chat, but I guess that will come next season, won't it?
Yeah, all the time for JD next year.
Perfect. Anything that anybody would like to say before we wrap things up for this season? The deafening silence of 3 people who just want to, 1, go to bed, and secondly, not hear me talk anymore. And who can blame them? Listeners, as much as I've told you to fuck off over the last half an hour, we are genuinely appreciative of everything that you have done for us this season, and it's been lovely having you on board. More importantly, though, thank you very much, Dom.
Cheers. It's been a pleasure this season.
Thank you very much, Imogen.
Thanks, Joey. It's been precious.
And thank you very much, Neil.
Thank you, you people.
Let's go again next season, guys. Bye.